Hey guys, I have a real life example of why pieces in chess don't always matter. When you first start out, you learn about the value of the pieces. Knights and bishops are worth 3 points. You don't want to lose them for free, or that's called a blunder. But when you want to take the game to the next level, you learn about how sometimes you can give up those pieces because there's something even more valuable going on in the position. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Let's take a look at this short game where you're going to get to see exactly how I sacrificed a bunch of pieces, got two brilliant moves along the way, and ultimately got a checkmate on the king. Let's take a look. So we have the Scandinavian, and the most common reply here is to take with the queen, but the alternate way to play this is knight to f6, trying to take back with the knight. And on d4, there's a very aggressive line that you can play here, bishop to g4. This is the Portuguese variation. And the reason that we're doing this is to actually bait white into playing f3, because it looks like we're wasting a move, which we are, but why would we do this? Because we create long-term weaknesses around white's king, and we take away a valuable square for this knight. And that's a decent trade-off. We go back, and here, white decides to continue gaining tempo, but at a cost. And what's the cost? Well, the king becomes weaker, right? You guys have seen some interesting things happen along this diagonal probably, and you no longer can block that. So there's just constantly going to be weaknesses that white has to worry about. Okay, so let's go back. c4, just trying to be very greedy and defend everything, which is a good line for white, but it gets pretty wild. So I played e6, g5, move the knight to safety, and f4. Now this is not a move that I have seen before. It's not one of the better ones, but I kind of missed the idea, right? The idea of white is they want to trap my knight, and I didn't quite see that. So what I should have played probably was bishop to d6, because bishop d6 puts pressure on f4, so that if white tries to do that, I could simply grab the pawn for free and save my knight, right? Instead, I said, well, let me go bishop to b4 check to gain some time so that I can quickly castle. Because I knew that if I can castle and open up the e-file, I'm going to be able to attack with my rook, which is a strong piece, right? So that was my idea. Knight c3, castles, and here we go, bishop to e2. And if you look carefully, my knight can't go there, can't go there, can't go there, and I can't take this. It's trapped. And I can't defend it either because no pieces can get over there in time, right? Now, there was a move here, a way to save my knight that I actually missed. If you would like to pause, what can I do to save my knight? Well, if you had a chance to look at that, the move is bishop to e4. Remember, this guy's pinned, so that can't take me. And the rook is actually trapped in the corner, which means if white just does this, well, then I get a rook. That's a good trade, a rook for a knight, right? So if white wants to save the rook, they would have to do something like knight to f3 or bishop to f3, which blocks off the bishop and the queen from attacking my knight, okay? So that's kind of the idea that I didn't see. So in my mind, I thought, okay, I have to lose a piece. At least let me get an attack on the king. So what did I do? I captured here to open up the e-file, all right? White captured, and then I played rook to e8 check. And so even though I'm down a piece, the knight is gone, look at my king and look at white's king. My king is safe. This is very, very safe. I don't have to worry about getting checkmated right now, even though I'm down a piece. White, on the other hand, has to figure out, well, how do I deal with this? Okay, this is not an easy threat to deal with, because if you simply bring the bishop back, well, then I have bishop e4 again, where I can attack the rook, but I can also think about piling up on this guy. So something like bishop h5, and look at all the pins. There's just pins everywhere. And white's going to have a very difficult time holding everything together, okay? So I was actually kind of looking forward to that, and white noticed the same thing, so they played king to f1, which is smart, right? Because they get out of any pins here, they get out of this pin, and their pieces can move again, okay? So what do we do here? How do we continue? You had a chance to look at that. The move that I played was capturing the pawn, not so much because I wanted a pawn, but more because I wanted to control this square so that my bishop could come in. So it's actually an attacking move in a sense, and it also opens up my queen a little bit. And so I wouldn't do that just to get a free pawn. I'm doing it for other reasons. Okay, so let's keep going. Trades off the bishop. Otherwise, I was coming in there, like I mentioned, it was going to be bad news for the king. And now he plays knight to e2, just developing. So what should I do? Just develop the piece, trying to get the other rook involved, and put pressure on the center. d5. All right, what move do you think I played here? You had a chance to look at that. The move I played was queen to d7. And again, we're going back to that same idea of if you can get something else in return for the piece that you're giving up, maybe it's worth it. And what am I getting in return by going queen to d7 if white decides to take my knight? Well, I'm coming over here to h3, right? Look at this. Check. And now white has to be really, really careful, because if you try to just go here, I actually have a forced checkmate. Now, it's a long one, so don't try to calculate the whole line, but what do you think I should play next that's going to eventually lead to checkmate? You had a chance to look at that. It's bishop c5 check. Now, I didn't know this was going to be checkmate. Stockfish is telling me it's like mate in 13 or something, but what I did know and what I could tell was that this was going to be very, very good for me, because you can't block with the bishop. I've got that controlled. The king is trapped, right? Look at my queen, look at my bishop. So the only move for white was going to be knight to d4, and now I could probably just bring this over and just pile up on that, which is pinned. The king is trapped. You have to worry about this coming in, and you can just see there's just too much. There's just no way, right? And there's other ways I could have played. I could have also traded that first, which I guess was even better, and infiltrated right away. The point is, it was going to be good for me, right? So that's the idea of why I would give up my knight, because I'm getting something even better in return, a potential checkmate on the king. Okay? Now, white noticed that and decided to not even take the knight and played h3. What does h3 do? Well, it allows the rook to defend that square, so my queen can no longer go to h3. Okay, so at this point I said, well, since I'm not able to get an attack now the same way, I probably should save my knight. Could have also played rook a to d8 and line up here, creating the pin, which is probably, if I would have saw that, I think I would have played that, but I didn't see it. So I played knight here. Now, this is also kind of an attacking move, believe it or not. I'm saving the knight, but I'm rerouting over this way. And look at these weak squares. And remember, white, early in the game, pushed all these pawns forward, and now the king is paying for that, essentially, right? You don't have a pawn here controlling these squares like you normally would, so my knight can just jump right in, right? And you're going to see how that's an important feature in how the game finished out, okay? So let's keep going. Bishop to e3, knight to f5. Creates the double attack, so the bishop needs to move now. And he goes back. He's trying to use a bishop in place of the pawn, right, is what he's trying to do. So what do you think I played here in this position to keep the attack going? All right, well, if you had a chance to look at that, probably a lot of you were thinking about knight to e3 check, which I did think about, and I almost played that, but I decided instead to go with rook to e3. And the reason is I don't want to allow my opponent to just keep trading pieces off. And I didn't see a clear follow-up after this of like, what exactly was I going to do? I mean, yes, it's a nice position, but I still have to keep attacking, and I just didn't know. Rook to e3 doesn't allow him to trade, right? Because if he takes this, then I get the fork and I win the queen. So it keeps more pieces on the board. So that was kind of my logic behind why I chose the rook. Also, I'm opening up the square for this guy to come over and create the battery, okay? So queen to d2, and that's what I did. And it's a brilliant move, primarily because I'm allowing the bishop to take my rook. And so that's why chess.com is saying, hey, it's brilliant because you're sacrificing the piece. What should I play here? All right, well, if you had a chance to look at that, the stockfish move is rook takes e3. And I guess what it's saying is this is very dangerous because we're attacking here. We've got the d3 square. We're keeping that knight, just defending everything. I don't know. I just thought, like, let's go with the knight because it forces the king to move, doesn't give white time to bring in other pieces. That was my logic, so that's what I did. All right, king f2. I played bishop to c5. And this is important. You know, sometimes you have a piece that's pretty well placed, but it's not the best. And it's not exactly what you need in the position, even though it's good. And it's okay to move a piece like that and make it even better, right? And that's what I was doing here. This is a nice little pin. Keeps the knight out of the game. There's a queen there. Okay, cool. But really, that's it. Otherwise, I mean, I'm not going to take this. And what's more important is keeping the attack going on the king. So by playing bishop back to c5, that's what I'm doing. Now white is like, what do I do now? Because you can't just leave this here or my knight's going to have some very nasty discovered checks, most likely. For example, you go here and take a rook after the check or something like that. So white plays king to f3, and now I play knight to f5. And another important principle of there's like key squares whenever you play chess, right? Depending on the game and which pawns were moved forward, which pawns were not moved forward, there's going to be key squares that are weak. We've already talked about these squares being weak because the f pawn is moved forward, right? So what I'm doing is saying, okay, I want to continue to make use of that, but my knight's in the way now, so I move it. And guess what? Well, now I can infiltrate with the rook or the bishop, depending on what white does and what I need. Probably the rook, because that's going to be, you know, the way to attack the king. But do you see how I'm just maneuvering my pieces around those weak squares? Okay, so let's keep going. White plays knight to e4. And here I found a nice idea. If you would like to pause, there's a little tactic here. It has to do with something about the rook and the knight here. All right, well, if you had a chance to look at that, the first option, of course, is you could sack the rook and keep attacking that way. That's not bad. I didn't necessarily see what the follow-up was going to be here because I can't go here with the fork because the knight's covering it. I thought if I check, the king's just going to run away, and I wasn't exactly sure how to continue my attack. So what I did instead was play knight to h4 check, and there's a tactic called removing the guard. And what removing the guard means is if there's a piece like this that's defending another piece, so the king is defending the knight, if you can force it to move, then the piece becomes undefended. That's what I'm trying to do, right? I'm forcing the king away. Look at my bishop and my knight, that I'll be able to take the knight. Now, the interesting thing is I am going to lose my knight in the process, because when the king moves, if I take, I'm going to lose my knight. But was I worried about that? Yes or no? Well, the answer is no, I wasn't worried. And the reason is because I saw the move that I was going to play after this. So if you would like to pause, how did I finish off the game actually from this position? All right, well, if you had a chance to look at that, the interesting thing about white's king is that it's almost trapped, okay? Let's look at this carefully. You can't go here. You can't go here because your own pawn. You can't go here because of the queen, and you can't go there. There's only one escape square for the king, and that's kind of where it wants to go, back that way and start running away, right? So what move did I play? Bishop to f2 check. I've talked about this on the channel a lot. When you are attacking a king and it's gotten off the back rank and it's coming forward, you want to make sure that it can't go back because that's how it's going to escape. So I noticed, okay, this is the only way back for the king. Let me take that away right away by forcing white to play knight to g3. Now the knight's in the way. And so the king is totally stuck there. And now I can move on to the final phase of like, okay, how do I get checkmate? How do I do that? So what do you guys think? How do we get checkmate on the king in this position? All right, well, if you had a chance to look at that, the key thing to realize here is that this is stuck. This is stuck. The king is stuck, right? This is stuck because it's pinned. So all I have to do is deliver check. And you would be tempted to say this, but it's defended. So the simple move is add an attacker there. The question is, how do you do that? Because if you play a move like queen d6, you give up something very important. You give up king to g4. That square was controlled and it's no longer controlled. And the king is now probably going to escape. And it defends too. So that's the problem. But by playing queen to f5, there's no way for the king to escape. And also there's no way for white to defend this. And it's amazing because they can just take the bishop. But who cares? Because the knight is still blocking the king from escaping. And now I simply have checkmate. And I did it this way in the game. I should have done it this way with the queen. Because that's a cooler checkmate. Look at this. Absolutely amazing, right? Because the king was trapped over there. So you want to think, when you have a position like this and you're trying to find the finishing blow, you want to think very carefully about the squares that are controlled and how they need to continue to be controlled, right? Because I think a lot of people would have been tempted to play queen d6 here, and you miss out on this king g4 idea, okay? Also, another thing that's important here is the pin, right? Notice that even though the knight is attacking both of these, it's not actually attacking them, right? So really, really nice game. I haven't played a game quite this nice in a long time. I wanted to share that with you guys, and I think hopefully it'll be instructive too on how sometimes you just can get away with giving up your pieces as long as you're getting something in return. In this case, it was a very nice attack on the king, right? Both times I sacrificed the pieces, I had a nice attack on the king. So hope you guys enjoyed that. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Stay sharp, play smart, and take care.